Good evening. I call to order this business meeting for the Cave Creek Unified School District number 93. It is 6 p.m. on Monday, January 23rd. Item 1.2, roll call. Members of the governing board, Scott Brown, Brianna Walker, Jeff Fortney, and Janet Busby are present. Member Ulmer is not present. Members of the cabinet that are here, Dr. Monroe, Mrs. Scott, Dr. Jensen, Mrs. Rodriguez, and Dr. Hendrickson. And we do have a quorum, by the way. Would everybody, where am I on this? Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We will. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We have Zach Bauman here, who will be leading the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Zach. All right. Where are we? We need on item, where are we? 1.3. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I want to pull out item 4.1 from action consent, and we'll just put that after action, at the end of action consent. So is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstained. All right. The amended agenda is approved. Where are we? All right. Call to the public. There are sheets in the back. Please fill them out, and if anybody else, we have one, which I will read an admonition when we get there. For the President's report, I attended the Future Falcon night at Cactus Shadows, and I'm really happy to say we have a lot of very enthusiastic middle schoolers that are going to be moving up to Cactus Shadows, and thank you to all of the staff and teachers at Cactus Shadows that spent their evening with a bunch of middle schoolers, so thank you for that. And I also attended the spelling bee, and congratulations to everybody who made it to the spelling bee. And congratulations to Grayson from Lone Mountain. And I will tell you that while I was sitting there, I go, that kid's going to win because of his orange shoes. And to Zach, who was our runner-up. So congratulations, guys. That's all I have. Anything from the board?
I got to attend the Race the District 5K. So my husband and children all got to participate in that. So with the Education Foundation. And spring is around the corner. Lots of events coming up.
I had two events before the holiday. We just haven't had a meeting that we could say anything. I was able to attend the Sonoran Trails Middle School, the holiday choir and band show that they had up at the Fine Arts Center, and very well done. Very talented young men and young women in both the choir and the band. And then later that week was able to attend the Cactus Shadows boys basketball game, which was the annual Silent Night game, which has been rated as one of the top 10 high school basketball events that's done every year. And as usual, the crowd waits until that 10th point, and then the whole gym explodes in sound. The high school team Falcons did win that night, so that's always a good thing too. Since the first of the year, did attend another Cactus Shadows boys basketball game, then the Future Falcons night, where our middle schoolers came up to the high school and got to see a great presentation on our brand new video screens in the blue gym. and then get to meet a lot of teachers, go see the different clubs that we offer. So it was a good event. And then Thursday morning, the district spelling bee. And I would have not made it as far as Zach or Grayson. So congratulations, and congratulations to all the students, outstanding group of young spellers.
Item 1.8. The superintendent's report, Dr. Monroe.
President Busby, members of the board, thank you for your participation in the district and some of the things that you've mentioned. I have a few things to also highlight. As the board is aware, this last weekend, our cheer won state once again. Now, let me just read this because this is a phenomenal program, and our girls work really hard at Cactus Shadows High School. But I want to congratulate Coach Brianna Canto and the whole program. They won the game day and the show cheer state championship this last weekend. They work out and practice and rehearse a lot of early mornings, and not only to get ready for competitions, but they cheer on our football, basketball, and our wrestling athletes for their competitions. Very proud of this program, not just for the girls' work ethic, but for the quality of girls that compete and represent our high school. I was privileged to attend with the Carefree Cave Creek Chamber to attend the new governor's breakfast this past month, which was hosted by the East Valley Chambers of Commerce. I want to congratulate Coach Washut at Cactus Shadows High School. He's our boys basketball coach. He earned his 100th win over the winter break, and I believe he's the winningest coach that we have in school history. This past Wednesday, as was mentioned, we had our Future Falcon Night. So our 8th graders were invited to Cactus Shadows High School. It's that time of year where registration is already happening for next year. Parents and students were there. The band and the choir performed. The school counselors, the administrators spoke. Students took a tour that was hosted by other student ambassadors, and they visited the cafeteria where they learned about clubs, athletics, academics. There was a good turnout, as has been mentioned, a lot of positive feedback, and I just want to remind the board and people in the audience, the Arizona Department of Education has ranked Cactus Shadows High School in the top 10 of high schools in Arizona. This Wednesday, in fact, our 8th graders are also coming back to Cactus Shadows High School during the day, where they'll spend time visiting classrooms, touring the campus, attending an assembly hosted by student council. If you remember when you went from 8th grade to high school, there was a lot of trepidation and nerves, and so this is a way we try to familiarize and get the kids excited for high school. There'll also be a Q&A panel that's led by our high school student leaders. I'd like to congratulate Juliana and Alina. They're Black Mountain students that we have. They have been inducted into the Thespian Honor Society earlier this last month. Cave Creek is hiring. Our first job fair is this Wednesday from 4 to 7 here at the district office. You can find information on social media on our website. Please spread the word. We are hiring the best and the brightest to work in this wonderful district. Hot off the press, pun is intended, I'd like to congratulate our Cactus Shadows High School Student Press, our student newspaper. They were named to the Pacemaker 100. Let me tell you what the Pacemaker 100 is. It's the National Scholastic Press Association, and they recognize quality in high school publications. And so the Pacemaker Awards are now recognized as the top prizes in student journalism, which is quite an honor. They honor the very best high school and middle school broadcasts, magazines, newspapers, online publications, and yearbooks. So I want to congratulate Mrs. Hart and the student staff of the CS Press for all their great quality work. It is very high quality. Mrs. Walker, Board Member Walker, mentioned the Run the District. That happened on January the 7th, our 5K. That's hosted by the Cave Creek Unified Education Foundation. The course had families, community members, volunteers, sponsors. The high school band was there. It was a lot of fun to see the runners or walkers' faces as they entered the stadium. They also got to run through the Falcon as part of the race, which is pretty cool. It was a successful fundraiser, the second time we've done it, and we look forward to doing it again next year. Finally, last thing, we held our spelling bee on the 19th, as has been mentioned. It started with 30 students and went 11 rounds, with the championship word being marionette. So congratulations to our winner, Grayson Baker, a 4th grader from Lone Mountain, and our runner-up, Zach, to my left, a 6th grader from Horseshoe Trail. So speaking of high-quality students, let me introduce Zach. Zach is here tonight as our student leader. He's a 6th grader from Horseshoe Trails Elementary School. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Zach for just a moment. Go ahead and turn it on. Move it closer.
My name is Zach Bauman, and I am in the 6th grade. This is my 7th year at Horseshoe Trails Elementary School. My first teacher was Mrs. Dine, and my parents said it would be hard to top her, but then I had Mrs. Zorb and Mrs. Cresswell, Mrs. Bagley, and the 5th and 6th grade teams. I am sure the Horseshoe Trails teachers are the best in the district. We also have the best support staff, and most of all, the very best proud and passionate principal, who always shows up to support his students, including this week when I participated in the district spelling bee. Something special about me is I like to build and create things using what I have around me. I like to build forts in my backyard and design vehicles and other objects out of Lego. One day, I wish to explore careers that will use my love of building and engineering. I especially love Lego and would like to work at their HQ in Denmark, but I don't think my mom will really let me move that far away. Something I'm looking forward to at Sonoran Trails is new academic challenges and club opportunities. I am also excited to see familiar faces from other schools on one campus. Ultimately, I'm excited to go to Sonoran Trails to restore the Bauman reputation damaged by my big brother Jake. Just kidding. I'm honored to be here tonight. I'm looking forward to the rest of my school years in the Cave Creek School District. Thank you, and stay strong out there, Stallions.
Let's give Gaynor a round of applause. Thank you, Zach. And that's the superintendent's report. President Busby.
Thank you. Good job, Zach. Dr. Monroe, when you were talking about the cheer team, one thing that I would like to add, when the cheer team won their state championship, this is the 14th state championship the Cactus Shadows cheer has won, and it's the 3rd three-peat for the cheer program. So kudos to the cheerleaders. Moving right along, on item 2.1, call to the public, according to ARS 38-431, governing board members may not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public. The only allowable responses a governing board member may make are: 1, board member may respond if there is a direct criticism of the board member; 2, the board member may direct staff to look into a matter; or 3, a board member can ask to have this item placed on a future agenda. Speakers need to be mindful of what they say when presenting to the board. Inappropriate comments could be considered slanderous. We have one individual that will speak, Marla Rainey, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. And when you come to the mic, please state your name.
Good evening, Governing Board. I am Marla Rainey. I'm the co-chair for Action for Students. And today is another day that our teachers are paid in the bottom 15% in the state. On January 9th, Action for Students asked the newly formed Governing Board to prioritize retaining and attracting teachers and staff. Per tonight's agenda, there is no mention of such a topic. Contracts will be delivered in March. So again, we ask, how will this Governing Board fulfill its responsibility to pay our teachers a competitive wage? And what measures will be taken to find the funds to adequately pay all district team members? I'm going to switch hats here for a second, and on a personal note for me as Marla Rainey, a parent of a 3rd grader at Desert Sun Academy, I want to express support for the implementation of Be Smart, which is an agenda item this evening. As a social worker and a former prevention educator, I believe we should not wait for bad things to happen, but rather prevent bad things from happening in the first place through education and community development. Any education on common sense gun safety in our community should be welcomed. The safety of our children and staff must be a top priority because CCUSD is not immune from tragedy. We saw this at the high school, and even more relevant, when my daughter was 5 years old, at her private Cave Creek preschool, gunmen entered the building. Thankfully, safety barriers were in place, precautions were followed, and no one was physically injured. But no child should have to fear for their life and hide in a closet. Honestly, I am more scarred than my daughter will ever be from that incident, but I know that those families, myself included, were so lucky, and I can't imagine being a parent from Rich Neck, Uvalde, Parkland, Columbine, or any of the other schools that have had to face such tragedies. Please approve this first measure program and encourage our community to participate so it can all together help protect our most precious resource, our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 3.1 are January Students of the Month. The mission of the Cave Creek Unified School District is to provide an innovative, high-quality learning experience for all students by facilitating strategies to develop curious, resilient, critical thinking problem solvers. Students will be empowered to make a difference while inspiring excellence in our families, community, and the world. In Cave Creek Unified, we believe that every learner is unique and deserves the power to shape a personal path towards success. Abraham Lincoln once said, "I do the very best I know how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep on doing so until the end." We know that these students being recognized here tonight exhibit great character, do their very best, and inspire excellence through their effort, achievement, and service to others. The students receive this recognition and nomination from their individual teachers and principals at their own school, and we recognize them here tonight. They are the best of the best, and the reason that each of us serves on the school board. Truly, they inspire excellence. I will call each of these students forward, and when you come forward, please shake Dr. Monroe's hand. You'll get your picture taken, and you'll get your certificate of recognition. And then please stand up on here by the dais with the governing board, and we'd like to congratulate you as well.
Testing. Our first student is Harper Messenger from Black Mountain Elementary School. Our next student is Chase Nike from Lone Mountain Elementary School. The next student is Leah Murphy from Horseshoe Trails. Congratulations. Audrey Seaman from Horseshoe Trails.
Peyton Morris from Desert Sun Academy. Amelia Marzola from Desert Willow. Addison Markham from Sonoran Trails. Barrett Smith from Cactus Shadows.
So we're going to have President Busby come up here, and parents, we're going to get a picture all together, and then is it okay if we take just a short break?
Of course.
So
Of course.
This is a good time, parents, if you want to take a picture of all that.
We will take a 5-minute recess, and if you want to leave, feel free. We're going to take a little break right now.
Okay. so we were talking about, we gotta go, well, don't worry, Mark, she said, she's celery, so I can work her through the bone. I said, whoa.
All right, moving right along. Item 3.2, Education Services Presentation for Access to Video Systems between the Scottsdale PD and CCUSD, presented by Mr. Bill Dolezal.
Good evening, President Busby, members of the board, cabinet. First of all, I'd like to thank and acknowledge the Scottsdale Police Department representatives that are here with me. The title of this slide is Expanding Our Partnership to Keep Our Schools Safe. This is an evolution of the wonderful partnership we've had. We have Officer Drew Chitwood, who is also our Cactus Shadows SRO here tonight. We have Director Robert Bokinski. He's with the Operations Service Bureau of the Scottsdale Police Department. We have Chris Henningsen, Supervisor of the Real-Time Crime Center. And a little bit just to brag on him, because he would never say this for himself, but he's actually the current president of the National Real-Time Crime Center Association, which is law enforcement agencies from around the country with their current and emerging RTCCs. Won't talk about membership and all of that, but Scottsdale is actually leading the way along with this group with drafting white papers related to the sphere of this policing, establishing best practices, and driving the technology sector in the real-time space as we exist. And then we also have Sergeant Kevin Bingham, who is the sergeant for our area SROs with the Scottsdale Police Department. On a quick aside, take a moment just to thank them, as well as all of our first responders who are constantly running towards danger in order to keep us safe. This slide should be familiar to all of you. It's in all of our presentations. However, I think this one is unique. Since the beginning, I've always noticed that safe environment and culture is right smack dab in the middle. I would argue that that pillar is even pillars of which the other four stand on as well, because we do not have student success if they are not safe physically and emotionally. We do not have employee excellence if we are not safe. We do not have effective operations and resources if it is not safe. And community partnerships would not exist if we weren't safe, and it's community partnerships that actually help keep us safe. In my mind, our say-do gap when we're talking about safety has to be small. What we say and what we do need to be right in line. This, to me, is really a great step in that. So what is this agreement? What is the purpose of this MOU with Scottsdale Police Department? It is a chance to allow us, Scottsdale Police Department's Real-Time Crime Center, access to our video feeds during an emergency event. And I stress that it is during an emergency event. Why is this important? You talk to any police officer, anybody who's in this, time and information is absolutely critical. I'm going to take a second and really describe to you what happened on October 1st. So for about 3 months prior to that, I spent hours going down to the Scottsdale Police Department in different trainings. I wasn't getting trained, but briefings really is the better word, as Scottsdale Public Schools was going to do an active shooter partnership, an active shooter event. I went there October 1st again. After several meetings, I knew what the plans were. Commander Myers is a genius at putting these different events together and really not only testing his people, but testing the school district personnel as well. This was scheduled to be a good 3+ hour event. So it's also the first time that they were going to try out the Real-Time Crime Center. So Scottsdale Unified and Scottsdale Police Department had entered into this agreement already, and this was the first time they were going to get it going. I believe, and you can ask Chris later, but I believe Chris had one training time on the system ahead of time, and that was it. Then the event goes down. This event had curveballs laden throughout it. Again, trying to test and get the police officers to think, do some of those things. Some curveballs were a sniper that was going to take out officers as they entered the building, a hostage situation, a potential explosive device on campus, an unknown number of attackers, and casualties. I mean, they had the hospital come out, they did the makeup. I mean, there was all sorts of things that were going to go on. Again, really testing both the school and the police response to these things. Well, with the first time Real-Time Crime Center gets involved, that 3-hour scenario that had all sorts of curveballs, I don't know if it would be too much to say. The Real-Time Crime Center hit it out of the park. Okay? This exercise was done in under an hour. There were no additional police casualties. Okay? We had the initial SRO who was hit beforehand at the start of this, but there were no additional police casualties. There was no hostage situation. There were no injuries or no more casualties. And it was because this team could sit there and talk in real time, live to the officers who were responding to a scene about, well, you better not go in the way we normally would because there's a sniper sitting there. I mean, the three, and it wound up being three, the three bad guys were neutralized incredibly quickly. And to sit there and watch that, kind of knowing, seeing all the back planning and knowing what they were testing the officers in, knowing that what they were testing even Chris's group in, and just seeing how this was going to go. You can ask anybody who works in district. I came back so excited and just looking at, oh my goodness, if we are going to keep our kids and our adults who are here on campus as safe, this to me was something we needed to pursue. I'll also share something. I think this helps us get to the chief that was there that day, Chief LeDuc, said something that has stuck with me ever since. He talks about optimistic vigilance, that we need to be optimistic about what we're doing and why we're doing it, but we need to constantly be vigilant. This agreement to me is a real step towards Cave Creek being optimistically vigilant. How will it be used when there is an emergency? The RTCC would be notified of an active event occurring on campus. That could be from Officer Chitwood calling them directly that something is going on. Could be from a 911 call. Could be any one of those things could start this process going. I didn't have this in there, but I wanted to talk for a minute about how it will not be used. Okay? There is not the manpower, the time, nor the energy. They do not sit on this thing 24 hours a day just watching to see if something goes on. It is not something that they do to keep our data. If you've reviewed the MOU, Section 4 to me is really the most important one when it talks about those things. Scottsdale Police does not keep our data. It belongs to us still. If they need that for anything, they need to go about acquiring it the same way they do now. All the legal ramifications or the legal manners of which they have to access data in terms of any crime or things like that, that is the same way they would do it then. And they only go on when it's needed. I think that's a key thing. This is not something, again, that they're on any random times. They maintain a log of when they go on. On our back end, we can also see when anyone accesses our Verkada camera system and that, so we have a log of it ourselves. Again, this is truly used in a we need it emergency or set of situations that are occurring in real time. Next steps would really be continuing to work with our technology department and Chris at the Real Time Center, getting those maps with the camera location, so they have all of that. I was actually thrilled to hear tonight, Chris was already talking to me, they've already got 3 or 4 different agencies that have Verkada cameras, so the learning curve in terms of them stepping up and getting familiar with our system will be smaller, will shrink dramatically. And then, of course, next steps would include the trial access test and then ongoing tests as it's outlined in the MOU. I believe they're quarterly. Again, just getting on, making sure that the things are functioning. And then anytime we wanted a request, their logs, we could ask for that. Or again, working with Erica, I know we can see the logs when anybody logs onto that Verkada system. With that, hopefully you have realized my excitement and my passion. And again, I think this is a great step for Cave Creek to move forward in being optimistically vigilant when it comes to our student and adult safety on campus. With that, all four of us are available for questions.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? It was very impressive, and your enthusiasm is so noted.
Are we going to do questions now, or you want to wait till it gets down to new business?
Well, we can ask questions now.
Okay. Well, I guess most of the questions, deal with the contract, so maybe I should wait till we get to that point. Yeah, I'll wait.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think you explained it very well, so thank you.
Yes.
It is definitely a good step. Thank you for the presentation. Thanks for what you guys do.
Member Brown, is it specifics with because they were going to head out, they have another event?
Oh,
So is it specifics with the
well,
contract?
I'll maybe the non-contact on how the real-time crisis center gets the contact, whether it's our SRO or you said a 911 call. Then is there some kind of a communication back to make sure that 911 call is legitimate? Or do we call down, somebody just dials 911 and everybody's jumping and it's not to that point that we needed the real-time center to get involved?
No, thank you. Very good question. So President Busby and members of the board, the best way to look at this is we don't access the system unless we're sending police officers. So we would follow the same protocol that we would for any 911 call. And a lot of that is, yes, those calls are vetted a number of ways. A lot of times we would expect at a school we'd receive more than one 911 call, for instance. If we only receive one, that's going to raise a question in our mind. It's not uncommon for us to call the school and follow up with that or call back the 911 caller. So there's a number of ways these calls are vetted. The best way to look at our access to the system would be somebody has summoned the police, and this is just us getting there a little bit faster, promotes a safer delivery of service for the officers. When they show up, they know what they're walking into, and also it helps the officers when they do arrive at the scene. Say we have to evacuate students, we have eyes down the hallways. We know what's, we don't want to evacuate students into a problem area. So we use it for those purposes. But no, we're not interested in responding and getting on the cameras unless it's truly an emergency. Best way under constitutional law would be to look at it as an exigency. It's almost like entering somebody's house without a warrant. You only do that when it's an emergency, and you're closely tied to the justification for that entry, under that emergency. Once that emergency is gone, then the exigency ceases and the police are required to back out. And that's the best way to explain how we govern or operate the system or our access to it.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps.
Yes. On the presentation from Mr. Dolezal, on one of his slides, he lists access to CCUSD video feeds, but we're really only accessing the Cactus Shadows feed. Is that correct? Because Cactus Shadows is the only one that's listed isn't that the only one that's listed in the contract?
No, the entire CCUSD is included in the contract.
But that's only for the schools that reside in Scottsdale proper.
That is incorrect. So it is for all Cave Creek schools. If any of our schools has something of this magnitude go on, we'll have Phoenix, Scottsdale, and Maricopa all show up to any of the 7 properties. They're all coming. On a good note, I was speaking with both of them earlier, and it sounds like Phoenix is actually going to start rolling out some real-time crime centers as well. So I may be back in front of you and working through that. But in terms of safety and the importance and all of that, and again, getting those eyes in a situation like that, it is all 7 of our schools and even including district office campus.
Okay. It says this has been approved by the attorney, but I guess the question would be, do we need to formulate district policy for this legally?
You want to comment on that, Mrs. Scott?
Member Brown, as far as I'm concerned, and with our work with Scottsdale, they did not have to formulate any additional policies that I'm aware of, and so I can look into that a little bit more, but from my contacts there, they did not change any additional policies. Everything went through the MOU.
Okay. And then on the contract officially, it just says 3 years from date. Can we have actual dates put into that?
As soon as you approve, we'll include an actual date, and then it will start from then.
Okay.
We just have to go through the process.
A date that it was signed by. And then at the bottom of that, it says CCUSD video system agreement. Well, did we miss a C? Because CCUSD is Chandler. Should that be CCUSD?
Let me go back and check. What page?
I mean, I don't know if that's just their file, electronic file, if they missed the C. But it is part of the contract since it printed up that way.
Yes, Member Brown. Yes, we are CCUSD, not CUSD. So we will ensure to get that updated. Thank you.
On what page? I'm sorry.
It's the
very
footer.
okay, the footer.
And then the system testing on the quarterly basis is something they'd work through your office, Mr. Dozal?
Yes, they would give us at least 24 hours in advance before they were running that test.
Okay.
So we would know, and then we could follow up again through our ITET to see that they accessed it and then they were out.
And that's just to make sure the connections work and everything's fine, or they'll take pictures of all the different facilities and hallways and classrooms and whatnot. Then will we get a report saying camera 6 at Desert Mountain needs a fix, or will we get some kind of a feedback from these quarterly reports or testing?
Okay, great question. So in regards to that, the reason we do the testing is because if there was an active shooter at one of your campuses and we haven't been in your cameras at all for, say, 3 months, and we went to go access those cameras for the first time, and you guys did something new, like a new update on your side, and that update didn't follow through on our side, we wouldn't be able to see those video feeds, which then puts all of our officers at risk because they're counting on us to provide them those feeds. Those feeds are very important for us because we're able to actually send officers into a direction that they may not be comfortable going in, but that's where the active shooter is. And so that's the reason why we do those testings, just to make sure that we're able to get into your system. So every time that we access your system for an active call, we actually have an incident form that we fill out on our side. At any time, if any of your staff said, hey, can you tell me every time you've been in the system and which camera, were you in camera 6 or 7 or 8, we'll be able to tell you exactly which camera feeds we were in and why, what type of call for service, which one of my employees were access your system, what call for service it's related to, what campus. And then one of your questions was in regards to other campuses outside of Scottsdale. Again, same situation. When Phoenix comes on board, that'll be a smooth transition. But what we do is we talk regularly with all of our real-time centers across the valley, and if something is, God forbid, happening at that situation, we'll help guide their officers into that situation to make it safe. Again, all tracked on our end of what we're doing and why we're doing it. All of our cameras, we have a little over 3,200 cameras that we have access to, and we have about 12 partners, whether it's the school district or a hotel or a mall or a retail facility. All of that's tracked, every one of those systems, and we only go into those locations if there's an active call for service. Mm-hmm. I have a monitor that's the size of your monitor at your desk that sees all the camera feeds. So I only have the ability to focus on that monitor for an active call for service. And to push 3,200 through that little monitor is a little hard. And so our goal is really just to focus on exactly what we're looking at. And once we're done, but everything is packaged up and put in that incident form for transparency.
I know I asked kind of a few questions. The one, say you do your quarterly test and you do find that we've got a camera that maybe a bird has built a nest on or something's not right. You do communicate that back
Yes,
to the district so we're able to fix that or update on our end so we're all square.
Correct. He's our point of contact. Everything we do is through him. And the nice thing about our partnerships that we've found, that we've had some outstanding successes with already, I'll give you an example of a mall. And we were actually on our way to that mall, and mall security had no idea we were even coming. And so we were able to give them a call and say, hey, we're coming in your system for this active incident at your facility, and this is where they're going to end up coming in. And they're like, thank you for letting us know. We had no idea that this was going on. Same situation for him. He may not have any idea the 911 call was placed, or 911 call could have come out through a cell phone and has no idea, but we let him know that, hey, we're coming, and this is what we have, and now we're actively in your system for this reason.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Member Brown, if I could just make one other point too with that, the importance of the testing piece, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but when we were at that meeting with the gentleman from Uvalde, he had stated that one of the issues was that when the police looked at the cameras, the timestamp was off, so they were looking at the wrong time, which caused an issue for them and a delay. And so the testing of that piece will ensure that the time stays accurate, all of those pieces, exactly what you were saying. If there's one of the cameras that goes blurry, he's going to be in contact with Bill immediately, so we have that fixed so that we don't have that issue when there is a true emergency.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
I have one question. As I read, it's not really a takeover of the system, more you're just logging on through the VMS that Regatta has, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's it.
No worries.
Easy.
Any other questions? I do have two questions. We do have multiple jurisdictions, and you mentioned that if something should happen on a campus that's not Scottsdale, does that delay the response time, from Phoenix or the Sheriff's Department or whoever to
I was going to say,
show up?
I'll let one of them, but I actually think it might increase it because whoever's closest out of those three is going to get here. But
Yeah, so good question. So with our cameras, we've been able to see what's going on. And so a normal call for service of two kids fighting, we look at it and we see, okay, the kids are separated. With them not being together anymore, that will reduce our amount of officers coming. If they're in active fight, we might be sending 10 or 15 officers. If all individuals are all separated, now we're only sending 2 or 3 plus whoever the SROs for that campus. In regards to other agencies, our department may work a little different than Phoenix or MCSO, and no credit on either side, but us being able to share with them, we have a valley-wide Peace app. It's a radio channel that we're able to actually get in and share live with any Valley agency of what's going on. So we don't have to sit on hold and wait for somebody to talk. We just pick up this radio, and now everybody in the Valley will be able to hear what's going on. And so we can share, hey, we have live feed of what we're seeing. And if it's a major incident, you're going to get everybody. I mean, literally everybody, because they all heard it on that channel. Okay. And people will actively dispatch themselves to that call.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Is there anything that we have to do specifically on our side through the IT department?
Member Brown. Oh.
I just pretty much need to create a user profile under their credentials, provide them those credentials, and they'll have direct access.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 3.3, the ESS presentation, and it will be presented by Mr. Karpinski, Anne Marie Callahan, Gracie Goulder, and Mrs. Scott.
President Busby, members of the board, I'm very excited for ESS to present today. They're going to present a couple things, a little bit about our ESS program, some of the upcoming parent council events, and our transition program. So, Mr. Karpinski, I'm going to shoot it to you.
Thank you. President Busby, governing board members, Dr. Monroe, cabinet community members. The Exceptional Student Services Department at CCUSD aligns in all areas of the strategic plan as it ensures all students are prepared for post-secondary life after graduating from Cactus Shadows High School. Furthermore, the high-quality learning experiences provided by the Youth Transition Program, which we will discuss this evening, further highlight executive operations, resources, and systems. ESS is committed to the success of all students receiving special education services and continues to build employee excellence and collaborate and build more community partnerships. Within each student's IEP, the team will determine the number of service minutes a student will receive. This will determine the level or category of least restrictive environment a student has. This category outlines what percentage of the school day the student is in the general education environment. We can tie these levels to the amount of inclusion ESS students have with their non-disabled peers. The goal for all students at CCUSD is to provide them with the most opportunities possible in the general education environment. When schools receive their letter grade, the expectation from the Arizona Department of Education is for 80% of students to have a level A LRE code. One such way we support students to have more time in the least restrictive environment is via our push-in and co-taught classes at Cactus Shadows High School and Sonoran Trails Middle School. This model supports students in many general education core classes, such as English, math, and science, to access grade level content with appropriate accommodations in the least restrictive environment. So the current graduation practice for students in the life skills classroom at Cactus Shadows has been in regard within the life skills program was that teams were deciding a credit was not earned, so students would continue as a 12+ super senior. IEP teams were determining if a student was not ready to graduate because they continued to need support in the area of functional academics, independence and job training. One such example was that during the school year, there were a few life skills students who returned for the fall semester as 12+ super seniors. Once they completed their coursework, they were issued their diploma. So as you can see from the steps, the IEP team determines if a student is ready to graduate. The final high school credit is not earned. With the current practice at the high school, the student walks with their cohort in the graduation ceremony but does not receive their diploma. The student returns to Cactus Shadows High School as a super senior, completes their transition plan, earns their final credit, then receives their diploma. And then we also have additional 18 to 21 transition support after graduation as well. The goal for all students is to graduate high school in 4 years, including students who qualify for special education services. In fact, the IEP is written to designate the appropriate specialized instruction, services, supports, and accommodations necessary to make this more obtainable for ESS students. All students at Cactus Shadows have their courses and credits tracked by their school counselor through their 4-year planner. Beginning freshman year, students with an IEP will have their projected courses documented in their IEP. Embedded in the IEP is a student transition and graduation plan, which can be found on Forms G and H and is completed during an IEP meeting. IDEA requirements. IDEA requires that all students have a transition plan when the student reaches the age of 16. The IEP team, composed of the student, parents, guardians, special education teacher, general education teacher, and/or related service providers, will generate a transition plan. To generate this plan, the student special education teacher will conduct student and parent interviews. To determine the post-high school goals the student has, the case manager will also conduct inventories or surveys which can help the students identify career employment options based on their strengths and interests. Together, the team will develop transition goals and activities that will support to achieve their post-high school outcomes. Alongside these activities, the team will assign a designee who will facilitate that process for the student. Transition plans can include supports to assist a student with transitioning to a university or college, trade school, employment opportunities, day programs, and additional avenues. So as we've been discussing the graduation process and philosophies within our district, last year we began reaching out to our neighboring districts to discuss their graduation policies. As you can see, Dysart, Scottsdale, and Peoria all have graduation policies for life skills students that align to ours. Deer Valley is not listed above, however, we have confirmed that they do not allow students to participate in commencement activities until they have met their graduation requirements. I'd also like to point out the Mesa Public Schools, that the students in life skills can walk with their cohort without meeting graduation requirements, and they also have verbiage in their governing board policies that states this practice. In a moment, I will talk about our next steps to discuss with our parent council. So some of our next steps that we had is that we met with the Life Skills team and Cactus Shadows administration in January 9th, but we also wanted to clarify the distinction between 12 plus super seniors and the 18 to 21 transition students at that meeting. We again reviewed current procedures for graduation and discussed the proper procedure for a student that may access the 18 to 21-year-old transition supports. ESS is proud and excited about the official launch of the ESS Parent Engagement Council, or the EPEC. Over the past several months, we have been working with Raising Special Kids to develop this wonderful council. The purpose of the EPEC is for parents, guardians, to partner in professional collaborative dialogue with school administrators, related service providers, special education teachers, and district staff to improve student outcomes by advocating for positive, individualized learning opportunities and experiences for students with exceptional needs. Again, our first listening session is scheduled for Monday, January 30th from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. right here in the governing board room. There will also be a virtual listening session on Tuesday, January 31st from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. for those who are not able to attend in person. Again, this is open to all parents and guardians who have students who access special education services at CCUSD. The listening session forum will be an opportunity for families to share their students' current and most recent educational experiences around 4 key areas to inform the future work of the EPEC. These areas are graduation ceremony governing board policy, the IEP process and parent participation, inclusion in school community, family and educator partnerships. The third meeting will be held on February 13th. The input gathered from the listening session on graduation ceremony governing board policy will be discussed. Recommendations will be created to look at language regarding life skills students, which will then be brought to the February 27th governing board meeting. Communication has already gone out via email and social media platforms earlier today. Additionally, information about these sessions will also be included in the newsletters that our campus principals send out to their community. And I'm going to turn this over to our ESS Secondary Coordinator, Anne-Marie Callahan.
Make sure I go the right way. Hello. So in this next section, I will be providing an overview of our current life skills program and 18 to 21 transition supports at Cactus Shadows High School. So first, I want to clarify again the distinctions between 12 plus super seniors and a student who receives 18 to 21 transition supports. Any Cactus Shadows High School student who ends their senior year without meeting credits needed for graduation returns as a 12 plus super senior. This term is used for any student, either general education or special education, who returns to the building for an extension past their expected graduation year. Furthermore, our building's letter grade also ties into the graduation rate for Cactus Shadows High School students who continue past their expected graduation year. The state of Arizona does not decipher between a general education student and an exceptional services student when they review a building's graduation rate. In comparison, an 18 to 21 transition student has earned enough credits and has graduated high school. It is agreed upon by an IEP team that the student returns post-high school to continue functional academics and employment skills. According to IDEA and the Arizona Department of Education, a student with a disability may continue pursuing a diploma until the school year of the age they turn 22. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. I'm so sorry. No pressure, right? Thank you. I apologize for that.
Is that the right one?
Yes. Okay. My apologies. So currently, best practice states that during a student's senior year, the IEP team members may refer a student who may benefit from 18 to 21 transition supports after graduation. Typically, the 18 to 21 transition program is reserved for students who receive life skills or functional academic supports. If during the referral process the team agrees that a student is eligible, the team will compose a transition IEP, which will begin upon graduation. Many districts across the country provide 18 to 21 transition programs under similar names. Some refer to them as STEP, Secondary Transition Education Program, or such as in Peoria School District, they provide services via the Adult Transition Center. The purpose behind these programs is to support postgraduate adult students who require additional time to work on independence and employment skills. These programs are typically hybrid style, where part of the day is reserved for functional academics and the other part is for community outings and job training. So at Cactus Shadows, the Life Skills program, I touched another button, provides students with functional academic skills, independent living skills, employment, post-secondary outcomes, and self-advocacy skills. I'm sorry. I'm clearly not doing a great job at operating both things. I apologize. And then in the following slides, I will just highlight current learning outcomes and transition activities in the life skills classrooms at Cactus Shadows High School. So as you can see right now, the classroom jobs include tasks to earn paychecks. They do simulated purchases, purchases also at the student store located on campus. They review money and budgeting, check writing, counting money, and then also doing menu math. We also have a thrift store at Cactus Shadows where the students help wash, dry clothing, sort, organize, and even work on their cashier skills. They also focus on personal care and independence, such as rent and housing, hygiene, cooking, budgeting, meal prep, internet safety, cell phone operation, driver's education and awareness for those who are interested in doing laundry skills. And then also another component is that job skills and training. So job search, how to write resumes, interviewing, workplace skills, computer skills. Some of our students also earn their food handler's card, and they have on-campus jobs such as the copy center, which Ms. Golder will talk about in a little bit. Is that me? Oh, man. I am really striking out today. And then these are our current numbers, our current students who are receiving life skills support, and then just the breakdown of them. So currently I have one student who are receiving 18 to 21 supports as a postgraduate student. We have 6 students who are our 12 plus super seniors finishing up their final credits to earn their diplomas. And then we have tentative 4 students who are looking towards a transition into the 18 to 21 program next year.
So we have a grant through the Department of Economic Security that allows us to have a youth transition program, YTP, other districts call it Transition from School to Work, program on Cactus Shadows campus. We work in cooperation with vocational rehabilitation and offer employment services to both life skills and resource students who are on IEP or a 504 plan. Our main goal is to help students on an IEP or 504 successfully transition from high school into the adult world of work. This transition looks differently for each of our students. We have some students who go on to attend a 4-year school, some go to community college, trade schools, and some straight to employment. Some of the services that we provide our students are listed above. So we help assess their personal interests and strengths, help students with career exploration, budgeting, exploring post-secondary options, job readiness skills, and community job placement. In addition, the Department of Economic Security can assist students in paying for tuition or paying for job training as long as it aligns with their career goal. For example, if we have a YTP student whose career goal is to become a firefighter, then the DES can pay for that student to attend the fire science program at PVCC or EVIT. They only pay for tuition within Arizona. Okay. So we have 3 people on our YTP team. I'm the YTP team coordinator and teacher. I develop curriculum, communicate with our VR counselors, communicate with our transition techs on what is and isn't working on campus, help supervise campus jobs, make connections within the community, and service students in a one-on-one or a group setting. Our transition tech works with a student in a one-on-one setting, helping them with career exploration, job readiness skills, community job placement, and post-secondary plans. She also has the ability to take students off campus to job shadow or work in the community. Our other transition tech works with our students in the school copy center. She provides them with on-the-job coaching. They learn phone skills, customer service skills, on-the-job problem solving, self-advocacy, and students learn how to operate the copy machines. In addition, she helps supervise other campus jobs. Our YTP staff provides all the service to our students while they're attending high school. But once they graduate, the Department of Economic Security, alongside with vocational rehabilitation counselors, will be the ones who assist our students in achieving their employment goals. As stated in our contract, we're able to service up to 40 students who are on an IEP or 504. We currently have 24 students in YTP, but are projected to have 35 eligible students by this May. In order to be eligible for our program, students must want to pursue competitive employment. In addition, they must go through an intake meeting with the Department of Economic Security counselor and myself. At this meeting, the counselor will ask the student and parents questions about their communication skills, mobility, interpersonal skills, work tolerance, self-direction, and self-care. If the student struggles in at least one of these categories and it has an effect on them gaining or maintaining employment, then they can be eligible for our youth transition program. For some of our higher needs students, as part of their 4-year academic plan, they are provided with job coaching in areas such as the cafeteria and the copy center, and they can receive elective credit for this. In addition, we have our students volunteer and job shadow within the community. We also did a summer job club last June. So we did Monday through Thursday and volunteered within the community. Here are some pictures.
President Busby, members of the board, do you have any questions?
Does anybody have questions?
I have a few questions. Great presentation. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Especially love the photos at the end. It's fun to see our local businesses, like local Johnnies, people working the phones and stuff, so that's awesome. For the EPEC, is that just for junior high and high school parents, or is that open to elementary parents as well?
Member Walker, that's a great question. It is for our preschool all the way through our seniors and into our super seniors as well. The communication went out via email to all of our families today. We also posted it on social media, and our principals will be putting it into their newsletters for their campuses.
Okay. And I know there was a comment about our or the graduation rate and how that affects the letter grade. So maybe just just changing a graduation policy to include those on a 504 or IEP wouldn't really change. Is that a way to not have it affect the letter grade on the school for graduation rate? Like they're walking, but they're not graduating.
So, Member Walker, I'll answer that. So the way that the state takes that data is by cohort, their expected cohort. So any of those students, even if they're on an IEP 504, it doesn't matter if we even put it into their transition plan, that they're going to walk, but they're going to stay additionally after their senior year. It counts in the graduation rate. They will continue to count in that graduation rate because, again, as they had indicated with ADE and with the expectation that everybody goes through within that 4-year program. So that's why they clarified with the general education students and our ESS students and our 504 students. So any of them would count within that graduation rate.
Okay. And I think this was mentioned, but is EVIT a part of the transition support? Do we have that as far as an option?
We do. There's overlap. So we have counselors who oversee EVIT, but we have students who are in our YTP program who attend EVIT, and we help support that. The high school covers tuition, obviously, while they're at Cactus Shadows, but if they wanted to do the adult program, we could further support that.
Okay.
And then we have a van, so we can take them on tours or to class shadow before they attend the program as well.
That's it for me right now. Thanks.
Thank you.
I didn't have a question, but I just did want to comment on what a great program you guys do run. The YTP thing has been great ever since I worked here. I thought that was an amazing program, and at one point I was trying to get in there, but there were no openings. But it is an amazing thing, and you do amazing things for our kids, so I really appreciate that. So thank you for the presentation and for what you do.
Thank you.
I guess a question to Dr. Monroe's. This was an agenda item that Member Walker brought up. In that, she wanted us to review the board policy, the IKFB, which is the graduation exercises, which is what started the discussion rolling with what had happened at Cactus Shadows in past years and what was being communicated for this upcoming graduation class. Do we need then to pull IKFB out and take a hard look at that to make sure we capture the kids?
Happening after the
exactly.
EPEC?
Member Brown, that's exactly on their agenda of what they had talked about with what's happening at the very first listening session and then the February 13th meeting, because again, that verbiage, what we'd like to bring back to you is that policy addition. Please note that it's not a policy change, it will be a policy addition because it will include a small component just for our ESS students.
Okay.
So we're not going to change the entire policy. It'll be like a number 8 will be added at the bottom with regarding our ESS students, and that's what Mr. Karpinski was talking about with the MESA. One of the places that we looked at was MESA's wording. We really liked the wording from there, but again, we want that parent input because once we add that in, as our students continue from pre-K all the way up to 12, it's going to affect all of our parents, and we just want to get that input across the board for that policy.
Yeah, I made a note of MESA because I'll go in and look at their policy.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know, and we'll see that as a suggestion at the February 13th.
So that'll be they're going to finalize it at their February 13th meeting, and then we'll be bringing it to our February 27th board meeting.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. It was a lot of work and a lot of time, and it is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Very much appreciate it.
Okay, now where am I? Where am I? Okay. Item 3.4. This was an item that Member Walker had asked to be put on the agenda, and so I'm going to turn it over to Member Walker.
Thank you. I'll just read the right off here to start. With school safety being a top priority, I'd like our district to build a culture of secure gun storage by adding a secure storage notification resolution to our board policy, similar to the policy Phoenix Union High School District has adopted, which is linked below. There we go. I was just going to pull out some key points and kind of background with this, mostly just because of things that we've had with the scare at Cactus Shadows this year. I think Mr. Dolezal's quote from the local officer of being optimistic in vigilance is perfect. So thank you for that segue right into this. I really love the first one, whereas evidence strongly suggests that secure firearm storage is an essential component to any effective strategy to keep schools and students safe. Another one, whereas the U.S. Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center recommends the importance of appropriate storage of weapons because many school attackers use firearms acquired from their homes. And another key point, whereas keeping students, teachers, and staff safe from the threat of gun violence should be the responsibility of all adult stakeholders at each of our school sites. And a couple of these at the end I like as well, just what we can do for our community. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Cave Creek Unified School District Governing Board directs the superintendent to create an appropriate letter, both in English and Spanish, to parents and guardians that explain the importance of secure gun storage to protect minors from accessing irresponsibly stored guns, and may be included in annual registration materials at each school site. And finally, therefore, let it be resolved that CCUSD Governing Board and the superintendent will continue to work with the local law enforcement agencies, health agencies, and nonprofits to collaborate and increase efforts to inform district parents about secure storage of firearms in their homes. I think our size of our community and our district is special, and I think this is something we could implement to keep our students safe.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, thoughts?
Well, I wanted to just bring up the one thing that, I think this is an important thing to discuss and put into place here. CCUSD is not immune from these tragedies. We had one just a little while ago. The CCUSD family, I really do believe that safe gun storage, people's views on guns or no guns in the home, that's up to them. But if you're going to keep it, keep it safe, keep the kids safe in your homes, in the schools. So yeah, I think that I think this is a good idea.
Scott, do you have any comments, questions?
None at this time.
Okay. This was a discussion presentation, so thank you for your thoughts and legwork you did to bring this to the board's attention.
And President Busby, members of the board, we obviously stand ready to do what the board would direct us to do at the next meeting. If you'd like, I can bring back the resolution, changing the wording to include our school district. And if you so indicate, President Busby, we can have a vote on it at the next one. But we stand ready to do whatever the board directs us to do.
Okay. Thank you. Item 3.6, the discussion of fiscal year 2023-24.
3.5.
3.5, yeah. Okay. It's at the very bottom. Sorry about that. 3.5, fiscal year 2022-23 budget update presented by Marcy Rodriguez. I crossed that one out by it.
Yes, thank you, President. Thank you, President Busby, members of the board. I want to share a little bit of information this evening about budget planning for next year and give you a report on tax credit spending and revenue for this year. First, as we look at our strategic plan and how this information aligns with that, The efficiency operations and resources is typically where the budget reports that I present to the governing board land. This one can also be for student success if you're looking at tax credit and the clubs and organizations that that supports. So for the budget planning for 24, what we're looking at is the process of how we go through identifying staffing for next year. We looked at the class sizes for this year. Are we overstaffed? Is there some adjustments we need to make to staffing? Dr. Hendricks has sent out an email to certified staff saying, are you coming back next year? Are you retiring? So that kind of gives us an idea of whether or not we have positions that we'll need to fill next year. We like to say if we are going to reduce any positions because of reduction in enrollment, that is done through attrition and that there's not any need to notify staff that they wouldn't be renewed. IBN is the process interest-based negotiations where the staff meets. We have representation from certified, classified, and administration in these IBN meetings, and they talk about salaries, benefits, and working conditions. So that conversation is currently happening. They've met 3 times with a facilitator, same facilitator that we had last year. I think you all might remember Sheila Sorensen. She facilitated and presented at the meeting when we present the IBN recommendations to the board. We also are looking at the current year expenditures. The accounting department is feverishly looking at purchase orders that have been put in since July 1st, and if nobody has bought those things yet, we're closing them out. Because what that helps tell us is there going to be a carryover balance? How close are we to exceeding our budget or meeting our budget? Because we have to watch those dollars very carefully. We cannot overspend a budget. The challenges, talk a little bit about something that I'm sure all of you have heard more often than you want, is about this aggregate expenditure limit and whether the legislature is going to override that or not. And we are very hopeful that they will. But what that will mean to the Cave Creek School District is we'll lose about $6.8 million, which means we have the money to spend because we've already taxed our property taxpayers with the amount of budget that we needed. They're not going to authorize us to spend the budget that they've already approved us to spend. So we are hoping that they will go ahead and override it like they have, like they did last year. I think you all remember we went through this with them last year, so that we don't have to do any dramatic cuts on March 1st. And I know Dr. Monroe and I have been out, and I'm sure Ms. Scott and Dr. Jensen had as well with our peers at other districts, like, are you concerned about this? What are your plans? What are you doing about it? What are the actions that will be taken? And, you know, I've talked to some of the counterparts at elementary school districts. Their kids will have met their instructional time by this March 1st because we have so many minutes that we have to instruct during the year. So they're like, we're shutting the district down, telling everybody to go home. Well, we have a high school. And high school students will have not met their instructional minutes that they need to qualify to get their full credits for the year. So that's not an option here at CCUSD. So there will be, as it gets a little bit closer, we've got another month, keep your fingers crossed that it'll all come through and it'll get approved. So, but I just wanted to put that in the forefront that is a possibility. If that doesn't get overridden, if you have any relationships with your legislatures, if you can please reach out to them and let them know what a dramatic event that would be for schools to lose the capacity to spend the money that they've already been authorized to budget and spend and tax.
And President Busby, members of the board, I'm feeling some optimism about this. I think, from all the groups that I meet with, I'm actually going back to the Capitol early next week, that it will get done, that it's on Governor Hobbs's mind. However, the House of Representatives, which is a Republican majority, is kind of the thorn in the side. But from the groups that I meet with, I'm feeling some optimism that it will get done, but I don't think it will be a permanent fix. It might just be another 1 or 2 year fix again. That's kind of the vibes that I'm getting right now. But things change, but I'm feeling more optimistic than I was definitely before Christmas. So things are happening behind the scenes, and hopefully all of our plans don't have to come to fruition here over the next 60 days or so.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe. So any other questions about just the budget planning, budget challenges before I move on to tax credit?
You had mentioned some of the elementary school districts would have enough instruction time in. Would our 5 elementaries fall into that also?
I haven't reviewed, but I believe they probably will.
Okay. And then I'm sure you've started to pencil in the worst case scenario. We get to March 1st and the government hasn't done anything yet.
Yes, we have entertained several different options that we could explore and recommend to the board. So yeah, we've been running these scenarios. We started running them last year when this was coming through, but there are some things that, there will have to be some dramatic cuts.
Well, I know we have a meeting at the end of February. Would we have to then call, we would have to call a special meeting if we had to make a huge budget adjustment?
Yes, that's likely. We'd have to have an emergency meeting. And this is a very divisive topic. As I sit in a room with superintendents from Arizona, the superintendent next to me says, hey, we have an override in place. We've been able to save so we can keep our schools open. And then the superintendent to the left of me says, are you kidding? We'd have to close on March 1st. So this would be a devastating thing to happen to our state, and it would really pit regions against regions and school districts against school districts. But you're right, Member Brown, we would have to call an emergency board meeting and discuss. And I'm sure we would have parents come, and that's why we're really trying to raise awareness so people can make their voice heard. The money's there. It's been allocated. It's just another hang up. It's already been approved for us to spend, so we just got to raise that cap. But yeah, potentially it could be, I think last year it went to February 26th or 27th. It really was kind of a last minute thing. So it could be a board meeting on a weekend. It could be a Friday night. So, but hopefully it doesn't get there, and hopefully we'll have more updates for the board over the next 5 or 6 weeks.
Okay.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you for the questions. Any other questions? All right, so let's talk a little bit about extracurricular tax credit. So first, want to just share with you just the accountability that we have with these monies. These are, in a sense, donations from our community, and they earn in return a tax credit on their state income tax. So the district is required to maintain the accounting records accurately, which we have to track them, and there are certain ways that we have to track these tax credit monies. Obviously by school, because that's how we report them to the Department of Revenue. We also we track them by category, if you will, because there are certain categories that we have to report them under as well. So we have to ensure that these tax credit monies are used for allowable expenses. So in the way we do this in our district, which I really love, I've never done this in any other district, but I love the way we do this here, is those tax credits, they have to fill out a form, each school, when they want to spend tax credit money, and they justify what the purpose is, how they're spending the money. I have an accountant in the finance department who specifically oversees that. She then brings that form to me after she's reviewed it, and I have to sign off on it. So we make sure that that money is spent with the intent that it was given to us. So I really like that process. So we also have to submit this report to the Department of Revenue by the 28th of every year. So this is typically the time we bring the report to you just to share information. So the governing board doesn't have to approve this report like you do a lot of the other reports that we have to submit to the state, but it is just information that we're going to be sharing with you this evening. So talking about the qualifying programs, So here are a list. So extracurricular activities, character education, standardized testing fees for college credit, preparation for course materials for standardized testing, career and technology education certification assessments, and then CPR. The CPR one kind of just throws me because that's just kind of one of those, okay, CPR. But there are also a couple of other things that they have kind of grandfathered in until next year, which aren't on this permanent list, and that is capital. A few years ago, they realized that a lot of school districts were capital poor. We're one of them. And they said if you have extracurricular tax credit money and it's given to you in this undesignated way. So when a donor gives us tax credit money, they can say, I want it to go to basketball. I want it to go to the performing arts. I want it to go to field trips. Or they can say, you know what, school, use it any way in which you need it. You know best what your school needs, but it has to be spent, under these parameters. So they've given us ability to use it for capital money, which is really nice. And you'll see some of our schools in our reports, they are using it for capital money because we just don't have any capital money in this district because we revert it all to our M&O. So that's one of the areas we can spend capital money until 2024. So a lot of the schools are asking that to be designated, they're undesignated into capital. So this is where we receive the money that's unspecified. The site council then, each school has a site council. So the site council determines how these contributions are spent. So a lot of times there's a conversation. The schools meet with their site council, some of them monthly, some of them quarterly, and they get the reports. They say, okay, here's how much money we have. So let's talk about where our needs are on our campus within these parameters, and then they designate it. When anytime anything is redesignated from undesignated to another area, again, that comes through me. So I review that, I look at it, I make sure that it is an area that that tax credit can be used. Okay? So let's talk about, there's a lot of numbers. So all of those categories there on the left-hand side are how detailed the state report is. So when we report to the state, this is the breakdown. So I mentioned to you capital was one of the areas that is not on the permanent list, but on the list till 2024. As you look down this list, health supplies, that's another one that is on there till 2024, and playground equipment, which kind of falls under category, which kind of falls under capital. So you can see this year we've spent some $95,000 in capital for our campuses across the board. Now, the clubs also are very active. We do field trips, but one of our largest dollar amounts is our athletic program. So as we've talked many times, is our athletic program is self-supporting in this district. And so tax credit is one way that we support the athletic program, along with, fundraising and then class fees, or athletic fees. And so this was the expenditure report. Here's what the revenue report looks like. Same breakdown. Again, the highest athletic is the 212 on the very top. That's our highest area where we collect revenues. But what I want you to see on this report that's different than the expenditure report, look at that third from the bottom line. It says programs in need. So that's how much money was donated to our schools, $115,481, that the community said, use the money how your school needs it. And so that would be something that would not be seen on the expenditure report because it has to be, allocated to one of those areas when it's designated. And then the final thing that I wanted to show you is just tracking our revenue history. And this was one of the things that we always hope will go up and up and up. We had a downturn a little bit. $30,000 less than what we did in 2021. And so I looked at that, because I'm like, why is that happening? Where is it happening? So I am going to be working with some of our principals, and we're going to be talking about what I'm finding is that it's really just how they're designating and coding it on their campuses. So a fee can either go to tax credit or a fee can go to auxiliary. So what I found was our auxiliary revenues went up from last year to this year by $60,000. So I'm thinking that we have some parents that aren't taking advantage of tax credit. And so we will have those conversations and educate our community about the benefits of paying the fee towards taking tax credit. Because parents have an option to take tax credit. We don't, require them or force them to do that, but it should be suggested on our campuses that that's the way they can get money back from the state. So any questions?
I have a question. Do we know what that maximum amount could be if every family in the district did their $400 or maybe $200 dependent?
That
are we hitting?
I have not done that calculation, no, but I mean, you can, depending on how many children are in each family. I mean, I don't have a family count. I have a child count, so.
Yeah, that's a really good question. That would be a fun math to do
would.
and almost a campaign to shoot for. Just a few comments from me because that number is a little lower. We started our campaign probably about a month later than we usually do. We were so laser focused on helping to educate the community on the override that we did not want to convolute that message because sometimes it's not the easiest thing to understand. So we kind of pumped the brakes on the tax credit campaign just for a few weeks, just so we could get through to the override. And as the board knows, we're kind of a slight declining enrollment as we go. And, the last 6 months or so, there's been pretty devastating inflation that families have had to deal with. And so, however, we'll continue to campaign into the future years to make sure those amounts go up. And that may be a fun thing to see how many families we have. Is it 3,000 families and they have multiple kids? What would be that number amount that we could get to? Because it's mostly just about education. There's so many people that don't know about the tax credit that we need to help them to understand.
Just another comment to that, when you meet with legislature, maybe ask them if we can get that amount to match private school donation. That'd be great. $2,200 or whatever a married couple can do versus our $400 cap.
Yes, great input.
Do we have many donors without children? Just community members that will?
Yes, including myself.
Very nice.
Yes, we do. And I know in talking even to some of our Kiwanis members and educating them on anyone that has that pays into the state income that can get that tax credit back immediately. Even my husband's in pharmaceutical sales. He has some reps that are up in this area. He does a lot for me, telling them about our tax credit. Nice. We have friends that have donated. So I do believe that as we're getting the word out, and I know I've seen it even on some of our teachers' Facebook pages within our school district, to get that word out to all families, even not only just grandparents, but within our communities around us, like Belisara, Telveda, all of those, to give some of their tax credit that they're going to get back dollar for dollar.
Nice.
Thank you. Yes, President Busby, and we do an active campaign, right? We send a mailer out to every household in the school district to let them know. I will tell you that after the override didn't pass, I had several of our retirees that live in our community say, who do I make the check out to? Because I want to contribute to the school. And then so we gave them the tax credit information, and then they were able to write us out a check. So we do have a lot of support. I have, like I said, an accountant who's designated to take care of this, and she fields calls in December all the time. She is on the phone. I hear her explaining how they can donate.
Am I understanding the law correctly that they can do get tax credit for 2022 with donations up to April?
Yes, you are correct. They can. They can still donate today. So anybody out there listening, if you would still like to take advantage of the tax credit write-off on your taxes, please feel free to write us a check.
We have close to 80 RSVPs for our business partner breakfast on Wednesday, and that will be part of the education that they get is that tax credit form, so that some of our local businesses and residents, they can still pay it even though we're in January.
Yes.
I assume there'll be a form at everybody's seat.
Yes, yes.
A little subtle there.
With a QR code, you got it.
The only other question I have is, do you think that the enrollment impacts the tax credits?
Yes, I would definitely say that enrollment does because of the number of students that participate in activities. As enrollment goes down, less students will participate in activities.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much for the presentation. Okay, now we're going to 3.6, which is a discussion of the fiscal year 2023-24 schedule for the Business and Work Study Governing Board meetings and Policy BE, and this is presented by Dr. Monroe.
President Busby, members of the board, near the beginning of a calendar year, we generally bring to the board the schedule for board meetings starting the next school year, so starting in July. So we have our board meetings up scheduled until June, but starting in July. I would like to get some feedback and have some discussion from the board so we can bring back a schedule that the board can approve at the next meeting. Policy BE, policy dictates we have at least one board meeting a month. Policy BE actually says the board meetings will take place the second and fourth Mondays of the month. And I know that the board has had discussion in the past about potentially switching that night. And so I just wanted to make sure the board could talk about that so that the next board meeting, President Busby, I can bring back a calendar recommendation for the board to approve. We would likely have to adjust the policy too if we change the night. So we would bring that back at the next board meeting as well.
Okay. Any comments, thoughts from anybody?
I think whatever day works is good. Mondays have been good just for my job, but that's just for that. I think anything that we've been doing right now has been working really well. So I'm open for whatever whichever direction we want to go.
I like Mondays as well. Being a parent, seems like games and things are later in the week gets busier.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
One of the things that I noticed about this policy is it's very specific. I've looked at policies for other districts, and it will say, as the ARS requires that there's at least one meeting, some will say they will have one meeting or two, but it doesn't designate the day of the week. And if there would be a situation where the board would decide a different day, then the policy has to be changed. And so it becomes very cumbersome to work with it. And honestly, policies are supposed to be guidelines. They're not like the how-to. And when it becomes very specific, it becomes a how-to instead of a guideline. And then we can get ourselves into more difficulties the more specific it is.
And President Busby, members of the board, we can completely bring back a recommendation to almost strike that specific language and leave it a little open. I will say the majority of districts I interact with have board meetings on Tuesdays. Our administration works really well with Mondays. I know that's something that we've done, but we're open to do whatever the board wants. I will say Tuesdays you have busy families, you have high school athletic games. And typically, if you have a kid in sports or a club, you usually don't have a Monday commitment. So if we do switch the night, one thing the board might want to consider is, some of our student recognitions, we may not have as many kids showing up, or it may be more challenging for families. However, I just want the board to be aware that administration, we will do whatever we're directed to do. If that needs to change, or we need to bring back a schedule of meetings on a Wednesday night or a Tuesday night, or whatever is also going to work with your personal schedules, because we need to have a quorum. I know in the past, Tuesday night, President Hatcher had church obligations and things like that for her ministry and her calling that made it difficult. So,
Well, I know originally the policy was the meetings were on Tuesdays, and then it was changed. This policy was just changed back in 2018. I've heard different reasons why it was changed. That doesn't really make any difference now. The one thing that I think of, though, is how we, as board members, get to review the board book. And if we move the board meetings from Monday to Tuesday, that actually gives us an extra day on Monday to communicate questions, comments back to you, Dr. Monroe. I know a lot of times, we'll get the board book. I'll skim through it quickly, but then I really don't get a chance to sit down and go through it page by page. And by the time I do, if it's midday Friday, I almost don't bother to send any questions or comments back, because, staff is going to be gone. And by the time you come back, Monday's the start of the school week. I think you've got other responsibilities with running the business of the district, and then the board meeting's Monday night. So a lot of times I just won't send questions in if I have them, and I'll either hope that I can answer them or ask them and have answers during the meeting, or just I would think moving that back to Tuesday gives us an extra day, which might be helpful as we go through, just to go through the book, because some meetings are very long and there's a lot of information there. And for us to get the book Thursday midday to try to get all the way through it, and questions sent and questions back, answers back, I mean, sometimes that's really tough on all of us, board and administration and cabinet. So one extra day, I think, would maybe help, especially on those months when we end up with just having one meeting, because those meetings, we've sat here till 9 o'clock, till 9:30, and that's just a lot of information that we're trying to get through as a board. And I just think if we can have one extra day, that might help that.
Is there board policy as far as releasing our board book, though, to us instead of at Wednesday night on Tuesday night, to give you that extra day on the week before versus?
Julia, is that language in the policy? I don't know if it says that.
No.
I think
don't
that's just
think it
kind
was.
of in our protocol.
I think it changed to Wednesday when the meetings were changed to Monday.
Okay.
Gave an
extra.
When we had our little training session with the ASBA ladies, that was something that came up in discussion with the board at that time about when we would receive board book and give us a chance to review it and send questions or comments back in. And I think that's kind of the late Wednesday, early Thursday window is kind of what we decided on then.
Yeah.
Because that was a problem we had, again, having enough time for board members to digest through a lot of this, especially if we're dealing with the budget piece or contracts or whatever the case may be.
Some of the board books are pretty meaty.
Yeah.
And having some extra time would definitely be beneficial to each of us, because you get it Wednesday, maybe Thursday, and as soon as the weekend shows up, if you have family obligations, that kind of cuts into some time that you're able to look at the board book. And then we end up, as Scott said, at Monday, and it makes it cumbersome because the administration is is busy with what they need to be doing, but then they have to stop to answer questions, and that's kind of a rough way to start a Monday.
Yeah, I would just hate to not have the students be able
Yeah.
to show up because of their sport things. Being in that right now, the only parent on the board.
No, I
Tuesdays and
I
Thursdays
understand.
are so
I mean,
busy.
I've been there.
But that's my only thing. I think that's a highlight of each meeting.
So, any other comments, questions?
I just comment that, I mean, I do agree with, sometimes it gets a little bit rough to squeeze that all in, but I will note that there have been times when I haven't been able to get to some of this until the weekend. And then I will get my questions to Dr. Monroe that early Monday morning, and whether he has to do that himself or goes through somebody else, I usually am getting those before the meeting, either by the email or sometimes getting called or texted. So I do give them props for that. So
Okay.
just to mention that.
Okay, moving right along. Action consent. Is there a motion to approve action consent as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstains? Okay. Action consent passes as presented. Item 4.1, which was the minutes from December 12th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, questions? All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstains? All right. 4.1 passes. Okay, under new business, 6.1, revision to fiscal year 22-23 schedule for business and work study governing board meetings presented by Dr. Monroe.
President Busby, members of the board, at the January 24th, 2022 meeting, the governing board approved the current schedule for business and work study governing board meetings. President Busby has requested that the scheduled Monday, May 8th governing board meeting be moved to Tuesday, May the 9th to accommodate the Kiwanis Club of Carefree Senior Scholarship Award Night, of which many of our students are recipients.
Is there a motion to accept or approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any questions, discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains? All right. Item 6.1 is approved. Item 6.2, agreement for access to video systems between the City of Scottsdale Police Department and the Cave Creek Unified School District, presented by Mrs. Scott.
President Busby, members of the board, we move that the governing board approve the agreement for access to video systems between the City of Scottsdale Police Department and the Cave Creek Unified School District as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions?
Just that we fix that piece at the bottom where we make sure that that's right, that it says CCUSD, since that's the contract. And then we'll have the definite date when it's signed by Dr. Monroe, so then we know it's 3 years from whatever date that is.
Absolutely, and I did notice that the director made that notation, so he'll get that to us immediately.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains? All right, 6.2 is approved.
Made Mr. Dolezal very happy right now.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dolezal, for all of your hard work on this. It's very much appreciated. Item 7.1. This is a request for a future agenda item for the governing board to review and discuss the current board policy BEDBA, which is agenda presentation. Because this is a request for a future agenda item, this is just a yes/no vote. So, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstains? Okay. Item 7.1 will be a future agenda item. Okay, upcoming calendar events. Dr. Monroe.
Yeah, President Busby, members of the board, just a few. This Wednesday, as I mentioned, we have our job fair from 4 to 7 here. Human Resources, Dr. Hendrickson are hard at work. So spread the word. We'd like to hire the best and brightest. February the 20th is President's Day. Our schools will be closed along with the district office. And then our second job fair will be on February the 21st.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion?
President Busby, there's one other event coming up that I think you want to highlight.
Oh, yes. On February 2nd is the Cactus Shadows Powder Puff football game, which is their, it's their fundraiser for cancer awareness. So, and it's a really fun event. It's usually really, really cold. And given how cold it was today, but it is fun and it is a very worthwhile event. So if you're able, please attend. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains? All right, we are adjourned. It is 7:57.